Hello everyone! It seems that we've reached the final chapters of this story. Shall I read them to you? Yeah? Then let's get into them. Chapter 43. You know that's right. So what are you going to be doing tonight, Chica? Lola asked, putting on her earrings. Most likely hanging out with my boyfriend, Sean Spencer. Sky shrugged. Lola couldn't help but laugh. Seriously? Won't Raphael be jealous? Sky raised her eyebrows. Nah, we've already discussed that topic. I'm allowed to fangirl over actors, and he doesn't care. But the moment I start building shrines or vowing to marry them, he draws the line. Besides, he's working late, and Valen's hanging out with Serenity. Lola frowned. You know, when did he and Serenity start hanging out anyway? Sky shrugged. I think he ran into her again or something. I'm not quite sure, as Valen won't tell us. Makes sense, I guess, she replied, putting on some lip gloss. So do you think they're gonna get together? Sky shrugged again. Maybe, as long as Serenity's older brother doesn't find out. So they're meeting in secret. Scandalous. Lola turned around to face the brunette with a flourish. So what do you think? The Hispanic girl was wearing white capri pants with a light purple halter top. She put on a pair of black leather high-heel sandals with silver jewelry. Sky strongly suspected Alistair was rubbing off on Lola's fashion sense. Cute, she giggled. What are you guys going to be doing? He said it was a surprise. You ready? Alistair asked, leaning against the doorframe to Skylar's room. Alistair had elected to wear a short-sleeved blue t-shirt, a white vest, and a pair of jeans. Let's go, Lola exclaimed, grabbing Alistair's hand and skipping out of the room. Sky chuckled as she watched her friend leave the room. She could hear them walking out the front door. She waited until she heard them leave and locked the front door behind them before bounding out of her room and heading downstairs. The house was eerily quiet, with everyone out and about, which left her by herself in the house. Not that she was complaining. That just meant she had plenty of quality time with Sean Spencer. Later that afternoon. What did you think of the movie, Alistair? Lola asked, looking up at her boyfriend. I know it was a Pixar movie, and you don't usually like animated films, but you have to admit, it was really good. Alistair shrugged. It was. Lola looked up at her boyfriend again, letting him see the disbelieving expression on her face when he looked back down at her. Who are you? And what have you done with my boyfriend? Alistair raised an eyebrow. I wasn't aware the body snatchers had invaded. I'm still the same boyfriend. And is it so hard to believe that there are some movies that I actually like? Kinda, Lola said, giggling. Alistair couldn't help but let out a chuckle. Walking further onto the pier, the two of them sat down on a bench. His arm draped over her shoulder, and she cuddled against his side. Lola broke the silence first. "Hey, Alistair, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Will you teach me how to duel?" The redhead froze, tensing in his seat. Lola felt him stiffen and looked up at him curiously. "You okay?" "Yeah, but I'm not sure dueling will be your thing, and you shouldn't dabble in it," replied Alistair flatly. Lola instantly bristled, moving away from him and folding her arms across her chest. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It's not a mark against you, Lola, but there are several reasons I don't want you dueling. For starters, dueling takes a lot of patience, time, and the knowledge of strategizing," he explained. "What? I have all of those things," Lola stated challengingly. Alistair's eyebrow arched. "This is coming from the girl who gave up on the crossword just because she couldn't answer the first question." Lola's cheeks turned pink with embarrassment. "You have a point," she admitted reluctantly. "But dueling will be different. I mean, Sky and Raphael and Valen duel, and so do you. It makes me feel like I'm on the outside, looking in when you have those long conversations about trap cards." "Those conversations were ages ago, Lola. Besides, in my line of work, dueling was dangerous." "Dangerous? Dangerous how exactly?" Lola demanded, her voice rising. "It's just a children's card game." Alistair rubbed his temples. He really wasn't expecting her to react like this. He had a legitimate reason for not teaching her to duel. "Remember the incident that occurred 2 years ago? With Caden? Who could forget? Incidents like that happen to us on a daily basis. I don't want you mixed up in it. You could end up brainwashed, losing your soul, or God knows what else. I'm not going to expose you to that risk." "You don't have a problem with Sky dueling?" Lola snapped hardly. "Skylar is a Kaiba," Alistair retorted. "Dueling runs in her family. Don't start comparing yourself to her, Lola." "So the only reason you won't teach me is because you think I'm fragile and a girl?" Alistair sighed. "Lola, if you want to learn how to duel, learn from Skylar. I've already given my verdict on the matter." "So you won't answer me because I'm right, aren't I?" When Alistair did not immediately reply, Lola glared at him and twisted in her seat to face him. "What about riding a motorcycle?" "That depends greatly on what you're doing. If you're a passenger, then I've got no problem. Then I've got no problem with it. Driving, on the other hand, is not happening right now." Lola shot to her feet. "You don't think I can handle it, don't you? It's the same reason why you won't teach me how to duel. Because I'm a girl, and you think I'm fragile." Alistair looked at her with wide eyes, a real startled look going across his face. "Not at all." "Screw you, Alistair," she exclaimed, storming away from him and leaving him alone at the pier. Alistair groaned and dropped his head into his hands. Women. Good morning, detectives. Collecting money for the policeman's ball? Sean Spencer said, a grin on his face as his friend, Gus, drove up to the sidewalk in what Sean had dubbed the Blueberry. We don't have balls, Detective Carlton Lassiter replied. Seconds later, he made a face as he realized what he just said. I honestly have no response to that, Sean ended up saying after a minute of awkwardness. Sky let out a laugh. Classic Sean Spencer, she giggled, grabbing some popcorn. She was startled when the front door was practically kicked open and revealed an incredibly angry Lola. Jeez, scare me, why don't ya? Sky complained. When she received no reply from her best friend, she got concerned. Lola? Sky, do you think I'm fragile? Skylar laughed. No, of course not. You can single-handedly take out the whole basketball team without really. Wait, where's Alistair? Lola sighed and sat next to Sky. She explained the whole incident down at the pier, and Sky's face twisted in anger. What? She snarled, startling Jasper and Misha. He said that? I know, right? Who does Alistair think he is? Sky said indignantly, storming towards the garage. Where are you going? Lola asked, grabbing her best friend's arm. We're going for a ride. It was at that moment that Raphael walked through the door, placing the keys to the car on the hook by the door. I'm back, and all right, you're both right here. And Lola's angry. Why? Don't talk to me, Lola hissed venomously. All men are pendejos. She stormed out of the house through the garage. Sky grabbed the keys Raphael had just placed on the ring. We're borrowing the car, sweetie. Okay. Want to explain why Lola called me what I think is a bad name in Spanish? Let's just say that Alistair said something to Lola, implying that she's weak and defenseless. He snorted again, slamming the door to the garage shut. Raphael was left standing in the hallway with a bewildered expression as Lola and Sky left the house. He glanced down at Jasper, who was looking up at him with just as confused of an expression. Oh boy, Alistair, he sighed. You're going to be walking into a war zone when you get back. Skylar, why are we at the game shop? Lola asked as she and Skylar got out of the car. We're going to make Alistair eat his words, she replied, opening the door. The bell above the door rang, and an elderly man with gray hair that popped up from underneath a dark green bandana peered at them from behind the counter. Hello, girls. How can I help you? He frowned after a moment's pause. Wait a moment, young miss. Aren't you the one who broke into my shop and stole the god cards from me a while ago? Sky shot him a slightly embarrassed smile. I guess you do remember me. I can assure you, though, that those days are long gone, and my friends and I apologize. The old man beamed. Yugi told me about that when he came back from that little adventure. So how can I help? My friend and I were wondering if your grandson was home. We would like to talk to him. He's in the back with his friends. I'm about to close the shop, but you girls can go see him. Right this way, Solomon said, gesturing to a door in the back of the shop. Just go straight. Thank you, Lola said, following after Sky as they entered through the doorway. A few seconds later, they found themselves in a small but cozy family room. Joey and Tristan had been playing a video game, but had now started wrestling. And Thea and Yugi were sitting on the sofa watching them. Sensing a presence in the room, Yugi turned around and smiled at the two girls. Hey, Skylar. Lola, he said brightly. Hi, Yugi, the girls said in unison. What brings you two here? He asked, leaning against the back of the couch. See, with all the weird things going on and a certain event my cousin will be hosting in the near future, Lola wants to know how to duel. Sky began, but she was interrupted by Joey. What kind of event is Rich Boy hosting? He asked suspiciously. Is it another tournament? Or maybe he's planning on doing some kind of shady business involving a computer or... Joey had been cut off by Thea, who had thrown a pillow at his face to silence him. Let them talk, she said it. Lola smiled, looking to Yugi. Sky was hoping you could teach me, since Alistair wouldn't teach me, she admitted. As an afterthought, she looked at the Millennium Puzzle around Yugi's neck. And Yami's welcome to help too. I know he's listening. Yugi blinked, then laughed. You remember him? Of course. Sky explained to me about Yami in detail when that whole incident with Kaden happened, replied Lola brightly. So what do you say? Mind helping a girl out? Or like Samson from the Bible, Gus said, glancing over at his friend. No, that doesn't work, Sean started. All those guys had names like Ben-Hur and Prometheus. You've never read the Bible, have you? He questioned, giving Sean the I can't believe you said that look. Come on, Genesis, Exorcist, Leviathan, do the right thing. A smile curved the corner of Raphael's mouth. Although he himself wasn't familiar with the series, he still found it amusing. He'd come into the living room to find the television on and the show playing. There was no doubt in his mind Skylar was having a girl night when he was out. The garage door opened and Alistair slipped into the house. Spotting Raphael, he asked wearily. I don't suppose you've seen Lola? She left with Sky, he replied, looking at the redhead. Explain to me what you did that got them so angry. Them? Alistair repeated, frowning. What did Sky have to do with... Oh no, she told her, didn't she? Told her what? I've been left out of this loop, Alistair. What exactly did you do? Alistair sighed. Lola somehow has interpreted my willingness to teach her how to duel and how to drive a motorcycle into being a slight against her. In her words, you think I'm fragile and weak. Raphael raised his eyebrows. Do you? Alistair shook his head. Of course not. For starters, I can't legally teach her how to drive. She needs to get a motorcycle license first. And the reluctance to teach her to duel? You're really asking me that after we nearly ended the world by dueling and took souls in duels? Raphael shrugged. Then just tell her that. Come to think of it, though, my response could have been construed as thinking that all girls are naturally weak and defenseless. The blonde actually turned in his seat to face Alistair. Really, Alistair? He deadpanned. It's no wonder Lola was calling our men pendacious, and I'm still not entirely sure what that is, but I know it's bad. Alistair flopped into a nearby armchair wearily. Damn it, he sighed, slouching into the chair. This will not end well. Immediately after Alistair had spoken, Burton Gaster said his 4 famous words. You know that's right. Chapter 44. Way to go. I'm home, Sky called, walking through the front door. She was immediately greeted by Jasper and Raphael. Glad to see you back safe. Where did you two go in such a tearing hurry? That's not your business, she replied airily, after giving him a quick peck on the lips. None of my business, Raphael cocked an eyebrow. I live here, cocked an eyebrow. Sorry. None of my business, Raphael cocked an eyebrow. I live here, you know. And last time I saw Lola, she was claiming that men were bandages, I believe was the word she used. Lola, who had come up behind Sky, looked somewhat apologetic. She still couldn't believe that Alistair Vaux she was weak and fragile, but the other men had not done anything to her. She still couldn't believe that Alistair thought she was weak and fragile, but the other men had not done anything to her. Sorry about that, she said sheepishly. Sky turned to her and nudged her side. Tell Raphael what we did. Huh? Lola looked up confusedly at Sky. You tell him. He's your boyfriend, not mine, she said. That reminds me. I know it's not any of my business, Lola, but I think you should talk to Alistair, Raphael said, walking over to the dark-haired girl. There might be more to this than you know. Lola shook her head. I won't talk to him until he duels me. I won't talk to him until he duels me, he said flatly, just as Alistair chose that moment to walk into the room. I believe I made my point on that topic clear, Lola. In reply, the Hispanic girl held up a deck of Duel Master cards. And I believe I made my own point. Alistair's face cleared, and then he folded his arms over his chest. You want a duel? He asked. Then you got one. Perfect, Lola smiled, walking out the door. Meet me at the Kaiba Dome at 6. Don't be late. Once Lola had vanished from view, Alistair sighed, then looked at Sky. Where did you two go? Like we've told Raphael, it's none of your business, she said cheerfully, walking up the stairs. By the way, it's 5:30. Better get a move on. Alistair repressed a groan. Great. The group arrived at the Kaiba Dome with only minutes to spare, and while Raphael and Sky made their way into the empty stands to watch Alistair enter the arena, there was a chance that Yugi and Joey would arrive later, but that was not certain. You ready, Alistair? Lola called to him as he took his place on the other side of the arena. Ready when you are. Lola's expression grew determined as the life point meter came to life. Alistair 4,000, Lola 4,000. How about you go first, Alistair? Lola suggested. Alistair raised an eyebrow. Lola letting him go first? Something was up. He'd take his turn, but he'd exercise some caution. A glance at his hand showed KC-1 Creighton with 1,500 attack and 1,200 defense. Perfect! I summoned KC-1 Creighton in attack mode. Next, I'll set one card face down before I end my turn. Your move, Alistair said, as a dark green tank appeared on the field in front of him. Alistair is probably underestimating my dueling skills, and that will be his downfall, Lola thought with a smirk. I activate the magic card Graceful Charity. I can draw 3 cards as long as I discard 2. Next, I set 1 monster and 1 face-down card to end my turn. Lola finished. Lola set a monster. That's either a strong defense monster or a tribute to summon a stronger monster. Alistair thought, in either event, I'd better get rid of it. I activate my trap card, Tank Corp. This allows me to special summon 3 tank tokens as long as I control KC-1 Creighton, and they each give my Creighton 500 attack points, making him a 2,500 attack point monster. In addition, it can be destroyed by card effects. Now KC-1 Creighton, attack Lola's face-down monster, Alistair commanded as his tank shot at Lola's card. The card flipped up to reveal a pink marshmallow-like creature. Alistair 3,000, Lola 4,000. You just attacked my marshmallow, and while it's pretty weak, if you attack it while it's face down, you take 1,000 points of damage, and thanks to your attack, it can't be destroyed in battle. Lola grinned while explaining her monster's effect. Alistair hummed. Interesting. Lola had been taught how to duel, and based on that card, you'll be willing to bet Yugi had taught her. I set 1 card face down to end my turn, he said flatly. Lola's grin grew wider. I activate Change of Heart to take control of your KC-1 Creighton, but don't fret, I won't be keeping it for long. I sacrifice Marshmallow along your Creighton to summon Splendid Venus in attack mode. A bright light appeared in the center of the field before exploding and leaving a person in its place. It was a woman with an ageless and regal appearance. She was dressed completely in gold with 4 beautiful white wings. Now, Venus, attack Alistair directly, Lola ordered as her monster swung her staff and prepared to shot a beam of light at Alistair. Sorry, Lola. I don't plan on losing any more life points at the moment. I activate negate attack. Alistair could not help but look slightly relieved as a vortex appeared in front of him and took the attack away. I end my turn with the face down, Lola said, looking slightly put out. Sorry we're late, called a voice from behind Raphael and Skylar. The two of them glanced behind them in time to watch both Yugi and Joey come over to the railing to join them. Yugi, Raphael said, acknowledging the spiky-haired teen with the bright tip of the head. Traffic was murder. Did we miss anything? Joey asked, looking to the field curiously. Nothing much, just that Alistair lost 1,000 points, Sky said with a shrug. He attacked Lola's face-down marshmallow. Lola also had Splendid Venus on the field, but Alistair used negate attack to stop her from inflicting direct damage. Direct damage. Lola also has Splendid Venus on the field, but Alistair used negate attack to stop her from inflicting direct damage. Yugi nodded, his eyes drawn to the field. Although Lola seems to be winning at the moment, I wouldn't underestimate Alistair, he commented idly, not entirely addressing anyone. His attention was now focused solely on the duel, a typical reaction from the King of Games. I'll go ahead and draw, Alistair said. A glance at the card he'd just drawn nearly made him smirk, though he managed to keep a straight face. I set this monster and one card face down to end my turn. Lola could not help but smile. She was winning, and if she kept that up, Alistair would lose. Do you think me to be weak and defenseless now? I summon Gelunduo in attack mode, and I'll attack your face down, she called. Gelunduo were two tiny monsters, which had rings of light surrounding them. They both joined hands before becoming a ball of golden light and began rolling over to Alistair's face-down monster. The golden orb bounced back to Lola's side of the field and reformed into Gelunduo, much to Lola's surprise. The adorable creatures were squealing in alarm. A red ball, studded in silver blades, had attached itself to Gelunduo, and the monster struggled to escape it. Tss, Lola, that's why we don't get excited when we're winning. I knew you'd be gung-ho to attack me, so that's why I said Blast Sphere face down. Any monster that attacks Blast Sphere ends up having my monster equipped to it. Lola, that's why we don't get excited when we're winning. I knew you'd be gung-ho to attack me, so that's why I said Blast Sphere face down. Any monster that attacks Blast Sphere ends up having my monster equipped to it. Alistair explained. Is that all? Lola asked in a sarcastic tone. So you gave my monsters accessories? Great, now Gelunduo can go to the ball. Alistair rolled his eyes. See that whole impatience thing involving the crossword puzzle? What you just did there? Yeah, now you understand why I brought that up. Hey now, Lola snapped back. That was a hard question. It was a 5-letter word. The second letter was A, and the clue was HIJKLMNO. Tell me, Alistair, how was I supposed to know the answer? H2O. H2O, Sky shouted from the sidelines. The answer was water. Lola leveled a furious glare at the other girl. Chica! Sky shrugged. What? I thought I would ease your mind about that question. Alistair cleared his throat. Getting back to the duel. Because of Blast Sphere, Jaloon Duo will be destroyed on your next turn, and you'll take damage equal to its attack. Lola grimaced. She couldn't afford to wait anymore. Alistair had made an excellent move. Time to end things with a direct attack. Then I'll have to make this turn count. Splendid Venus, why don't you show Alistair what you can do with a direct attack? Once more Splendid Venus made to attack, but much to Lola's surprise, Alistair did not look worried. In fact, he looked triumphant. I was waiting for that, he said. Activate Contagion of Madness. If your monster declares a direct attack, you take half of the attacking monster's attack as battle damage. Granted, it leaves me in a bit of a sticky situation, but believe me, I know what I'm doing. He had barely finished speaking before he had to shield his eyes from the bright light of Venus' attack. Alistair 200, Lola 2,600. Fine, then I'll end my turn. Lola growled. You're stalling now. Am I? Countered Alistair pleasantly. You'll have to wait and see about that, Lola. Who are you rooting for to win? Asked Joey, glancing at Yugi. Raphael and Sky glanced at them with identical curious expressions. Yugi shook his head. His eyes looked on the field. When he spoke, his voice was almost distant. It was apparent he was still focused on the door below. I couldn't tell you. You'd think Lola would win, given Alistair's situation. But then again, Alistair's had longer to duel and has more experience. I wouldn't be surprised if he has something in mind to counter Lola's attack. After all, brute strength can be countered by strategy. There was a noise behind them, and the group turned around to see who was coming in next, and they received an interesting surprise. I went home and spotted a note that said you fellows were here dueling. What did I miss? Valen asked, walking into the arena. Behind him was a young auburn-haired girl who was peering curiously into the arena. Valen was leading her by the hand, so Sky knew that this had to be Joey's younger sister, Serenity. Sky winced. They all warned Valen about seeing Serenity primarily because of Joey's reaction to anyone who flirted with her. Given Valen's former encounters with Joey, they all stressed how important it was to not anger the other teenager in any shape or form. Joey's face promptly darkened. Why are you holding my baby sister's hand, Aussie? He growled. Valen blinked, then grinned. I wasn't aware there was a law forbidding it, Weller, he replied cheekily. And besides, she's right cute and I like holding her hand. Sky face palmed. Raphael suppressed an exasperated groan. Alistair had noted Valen coming in, but hardly paid any attention to him, instead studying his hand. He was impressed with Lola. For the first time dueling, she'd been doing spectacularly well, but even so, he was not going to lay down and let her win. He had already formed a new strategy. The trick was getting it to work. I activate the magic card Auntie. We both reveal a card from our hand. The weakest monster gets sent to the graveyard, and the owner of the card loses 1,000 life points. Alistair explained, gesturing to Lola. You first. Lola took out a card from her hand to show Alistair. I reveal my level 7 guardian angel John, she said with a smirk. There was no way Alistair had something higher in his hand. He would have played it by now. Alistair calmly lifted one card from his hand. Level 8 Air Fortress Ziggurat, he announced. You'll be losing those 1,000 life points now. Alistair 200, Lola 16,000. You just got lucky, and activating a card like that shows you're getting desperate, Lola sneered. Alistair's eyebrow rose. Am I? He asked. He pointed to Genundo, who was still equipped with Blast Sphere. Did you forget about what Gelundo's little accessory does on your next turn? Lola froze, her eyes widening in realization. She had forgotten about the Blast Sphere. Alistair would not even have to play a monster at this point to win. She will be dealt 1,700 points of damage when Blast Sphere exploded on her turn. She will lose. I end my turn, Alistair continued, and that's game. Even as he spoke, Blast Sphere exploded, and Gelunduo vanished with a squeal of alarm. Lola shielded herself from the smoke, wincing as her life points went to 0. Alistair 200, Lola 0. Lola grimaced and tried not to tear up at the sight of the empty field. She'd been so close. Now Alistair would not see her as anything but weak after all. Seconds later, however, Alistair had crossed the field and was directly in front of her. Lola, I lost! You probably still think I'm weak, don't you? Said Lola, not looking at him. There was a brief pause, and then Alistair had taken her hand and was leading her wordlessly from the arena. Lola nearly tugged herself free until Alistair said firmly, I want to talk to you without an audience. Sky started to go after them once she saw them leaving, but Raphael put a restraining hand on her shoulder. Let them go. How they sort it out is their own affair, and that's something neither of us should get involved in. But, no buts, Skylar, he said, giving her a knowing look. He paused, and then gestured behind him to where both Joey and Valen were gloating at each other. Serenity was looking lost, trying to decide which side she should blockade. Besides, we need to stop them from killing each other. Lola had been expecting Alistair to do many things once they were out of sight of the others. But the one thing she had not been expecting him to do was pull her into a warm and comforting hug. I believe I owe you an apology, he said quietly. I never intended to make you feel weak or fragile. Her eyes widened in surprise. Why was he? No, he would not do this to her. He believed he owed her an apology. She shoved him away from her and planted her hands on her hips angrily. Do you have any idea how pathetic it made me feel? She snarled. Lola, I'm the same age as you, and yet you're still treating me like a child. You won't let me do anything that you think could hurt me, but you're wrong. Was your mother this protective or something? Is that why you're so determined to, Alistair? Lola's anger faded to be replaced by a look of genuine concern, and her arms dropped to her side. One look at the man, and she knew instantly she had crossed a line. Alistair's eyes had gone wide at her words, and a look of raw pain flashed across his face. Even as she watched, however, his expression vanished behind a familiar, emotionless mask. The only indication of his current state of emotions was his darkened and angry gray eyes. When he spoke, his voice carried only the slightest tremor. "I'm sorry if you feel like I'm treating you like a child," he said icily. Someone I cared about died because I wasn't careful." Lola found that she could not speak. She did not know much about Alistair's past. It was a topic that was rarely brought up, even with the other bikers. Had Alistair been with another woman before Lola? No, that couldn't be right. Sky had assured her that Alistair had not been romantically involved with anyone else before her. This wasn't just about card games and learning how to drive motorcycles, she realized now. Alistair would show the same amount of protectiveness for her no matter what she chose to do. She was certain that it stemmed from the loss of this someone Alistair referred to. "Alistair," she began timidly, but then she trailed off. "I lost my little brother, as well as my mother and father. I will not do anything to endanger you, Lola," she continued. "Call me overprotective if you like, but I won't lose one more person I love if I can help it." Lola let out a small gasp as she realized what Alistair had just said. Alistair's expression cleared, and he studied her for a moment before he came to the same conclusion she had, and he stiffened with visible surprise. You love me?" she asked slowly. "Is that what you just said?" Alistair turned his eyes away from her, looking over at a nearby tree. After a long moment, he replied with, "I don't say things idly, Lola. I also mean what I say. You know that." There was a long pause, but Alistair kept his focus on the tree. He should have paid attention to Lola, however, because in the next second, something tackled him, and he was nearly knocked off his feet. He managed to keep his balance, and, realizing he was holding Lola, loosened his grip. "You aren't weak, pathetic, fragile, or whatever else you're thinking," he continued quietly. "I never meant for you to think I did." Lola shook her head gently. "I didn't understand why you were being so protective," she said. "I should have asked you why, instead of losing my temper. I guess I do get impatient, don't I?" she added with a small laugh. "Regardless, Lola, I'm sorry," he said gently. "Am I still a pendejou?" Lola looked up at the redhead, shook her head, and then smiled. "Not anymore." A small smile tugged at the corner of Alistair's mouth. "Good. I don't like being one," he said, leaning in to kiss her. "Come on, you," said Raphael, his voice lowered to avoid being heard by Alistair or Lola. He gently began leading Sky away to allow some privacy for his friend. The two of them had been uncertain as to how events would unfold, and had followed after them, but now that they were assured everything would turn out all right, he decided Alistair needed some alone time. Sky, in the meantime, was barely repressing her excited giggles and waited until they were back inside the building before she began gushing. He did it! He did it! He did it! He finally admitted it! She squealed, hugging Raphael tightly. I'm guessing you've been waiting for that to happen, he replied, wrapping an arm around her waist to bring her closer to him. I don't blame you. I was in the same boat. It's so cute, Sky giggled. Guys? The two of them turned and noticed Serenity alternating her gaze between them and the point behind her. I don't mean to interrupt you, Raphael, but it seems like you could stop Valen and Joey before they kill each other, and I'm sure you're able to stop them before it gets to that point. Raphael sighed. All right, I'll see what I can do, he said. Come on, Sky. He waited a moment to look over his shoulder, where he could see Lola and Alistair coming up the path, and then smiled. Way to go, he said softly, and then he was following after Sky to separate the two quarreling teenagers. Chapter 45, Movies and Coffins. So he told you he loved you? Sky asked, a grin growing on her face. Yes, Lola said, almost laughing. Once again, Skylar burst out into her trademark fit of ecstatic giggles, saved for occasions just like this one. It's about time. So, what happened in the dome when Alistair dragged me outside? I know you were spying on me. You love watching that sort of thing. Sky pouted. I was watching, but Raphael wouldn't let me stick around. Besides, we had to stop Valen and Joey from killing each other. Stupid idiots, she said, looking annoyed as she dropped onto the couch. Lola shook her head, rising to her feet. Valen better be careful about provoking Joey too much. Well, chica, I'm off. Alistair wants to borrow me for the evening. He's going to try and teach me how to do better. I'll see you later. Bye, Sky called after the disappearing figure of her friend. The front door closed, and Sky instantly reached for a nearby blanket, cocooning herself into the blanket before reaching for the television remote. Finally, some more quality time with Sean Spencer, she said contentedly, turning the television back on. She frowned when she realized that she was no longer on the place she had left off on. She frowned when she realized that she was no longer on the place she had left off on in the episode. In fact, it was 5 episodes ahead of where she started. As she began sorting through the episodes, Raphael came downstairs on his way to the kitchen for some water. Noticing Sky's troubled frown, he paused. What's the matter? Sky did not answer. Sky? Still nothing. Skylar, he said sharply, and the girl jumped at the usage of her full name. In the same manner that Valen never called Raphael by his full name, Raphael rarely called Sky by her full name unless he wanted her to respond. Sure enough, Sky shifted and looked around at him. Oh, hey Raphael, did you say something? I was trying to figure out why you look so troubled. Did something happen with Lola? No, actually, someone messed up my Sicketon, she sighed, numbing. I'm trying to remember where I left off. Ah, that's my fault. After you dashed out with Lola, I sat down and watched a bit of it. I should have paused it, said Raphael, looking slightly guilty. Sky instantly brightened, stretching her arms to catch his hand. In that case, all is forgiven. Come, sit. I was getting some water, though, Raphael began, but Sky tugged his arm and he allowed himself to be yanked into the sofa. Well, if you insist. Sky smiled and snuggled against his side. Raphael raised an eyebrow, but settled, accommodating for Sky's body at his side. With a small smile, he wrapped one of his arms around her. This would have been the perfect moment for a kiss, except at that moment the front door was kicked open and Valen skidded into the room. Hey guys, guess what I found? Sky glared at him. Your brain? She guessed irritably. Nope, gave up looking for that years ago, he said brightly, only to pause when he realized what his response was. Hey! I take back what I said. Gestured to the doorway. Anyway, I found something better. Taking this as her cue, Amber bounded into the room with her trademark grin firmly in place. She was a lot darker than they remember, her skin a healthy tan. Ta-da! I've been wondering where you ran off to, said Raphael, though he was eyeing her wearily. Where have you been? I was in Hawaii, Amber sang brightly, twirling in place and doing some form of a hula. I've got extended family over there, and it was time for a reunion. So, but guess what? Sky grinned. She had missed Amber's bright disposition. What? We found our new secret sanctuary, the two said at the same time, both looking visibly excited. Raphael and Sky both exchanged glances. Knowing you two, it's cock full of explosives. Both of the younger people pouted. Aw, you ruined the surprise, Amber complained, but then she brightened and laughed. But that's not a surprise. Sky's eyebrow raised at that. Then what is this grand surprise that you speak of? Valen reached into his coat and proudly displayed a handful of movie tickets. Movie night, fellas. Really? Sky perked up at that. Raphael shifted, looking interested as well. Yep, Amber cheered, snatching the tickets from Valen's hand. Valen bought them before some duel he mentioned. Valen bought them before some duel he mentioned. Something between Alistair and Lola. Anyways, he bought them for a movie night. Why 6 tickets though? Asked Sky, looking curious. Well, I was gonna invite Serenity to a movie night, you know. Only problem is that Weller picked up on it and insisted on going. Raph, please, you're gonna come with. Weller is looking for an excuse to eat me alive. If you would quit provoking him, things will be better for you, replied Raphael evenly. He glanced over at Sky and said, Well, what do you say? Movie night? Sky smiled and nodded. Movie night it is, she said, untangling herself from the blankets and hurrying upstairs. I'll be down in just a second. Define second, muttered Valen, watching her go. He paused and looked over at Raphael. Hey, where's Alistair? He's out with Lola. And I suspect he won't want to be bothered, replied Raphael, rising to his feet. Well, at least that's one block I don't need to worry about then, said Venom brightly. Now come on, movie's gonna start soon, and we need to get there on time. 20 minutes later, they arrived at the movie theater. Sky, Raphael, Amber, and Valen already had their tickets paid for. In a few minutes after they arrived, Serenity and Joey both came into the theater. Joey looked surprised at the sight of Raphael and Sky, but at the same time he looked relieved. Likely he was happy that Raphael would be there to tame Valen should he end up being too much of a nuisance. Hello, Serenity, called Valen, grinning at her when she came closer. How are you, love? Doing all right, Valen, said Serenity brightly, hugging him. Joey scowled but said nothing. Deciding a bit of diplomacy was in order, Raphael cleared his throat and said, It's nice to see you too, Joey. Joey jumped at being addressed, but relaxed. Good to hear. Valen, I need to talk to you for a sec. Do you mind? And do you mind? Valen tilted his head curiously, but nodded. Okay. You're not gonna beat me up or anything, are you? Depends, said Joey evasively. He noticed Raphael frowning at him and said, I'm not. Anyways, just come talk to me a second. It won't take long. Valen shrugged but followed after Joey. Go ahead and get seats, fellas. We'll be along in a bit, he said, shooting them a thumbs up. No worries. Famous last words, muttered Amber as they filed into the theater. The moment they were alone, Joey turned to face him, his eyes narrow. Look, I know it's coming. You're eventually going to be dating my sister, and there's not a thing I can do about it. Ren likes you, and I won't put myself between you two when she's really happy. Venom blinked. I'm not done. Personally, I don't have a problem with you, Joey said with a shrug and a laugh. You're a nice enough guy, and when you're not actively trying to make me mad, we get along. I'm pretty cool with the idea of being friends. Joey's face abruptly darkened, and his eyes lit with cold fire. But I'll say this. If you break my baby sister's heart, I'll break you in two. Capiche? I wouldn't dream of it, Wheeler, said Valen seriously. I don't like toying with the girl's feelings. I would think about doing anything like that with her. I wouldn't think about doing anything like that with her. Joey studied him for a moment and then grinned. Perfect. I'll remember that if my sister ever comes to me in tears. Valen repressed a groan. That was awesome, Amber exclaimed as she jumped out of the theater. The best movie ever. Calm down, you idiot, Skylar said, grabbing Amber's ear and yanking her down. You're making a scene. You're just mad because you couldn't sit next to your love muffin, she smirked. Sky's face turned bright red, and Raphael's turned a light shade of pink. What no one noticed was the way Joey's body abruptly stiffened and his whole countenance darkened. What did you think of the movie, Joey? Sky asked, walking up to the blonde teenager. It was all right, he replied with a groan in his voice. His face noticeably quickened, and Sky frowned, trying to catch up to him. Joey, are you okay? She asked, trying to catch up to Joey. Even Serenity looked confused, uncertain as to what was causing her brother to act in this manner. I'm fine. Look, go home. I'm going someplace. See you at home, Ren. And don't do anything stupid with the Aussie, he said curtly, stomping away from the group. Valen exchanged glances with the confused group and then sighed. Ah, cripes. I don't know what's gotten into him, he said, his hands in his pocket. Tell you what, Serenity. You tag along back to my house with Raph and Sky, and I'll go see what's bugging your brother. You sure you're the best candidate for that? Skylar questioned. Of course I am. Why wouldn't I be? You two haven't always been the closest of friends, you know, Raphael reminded him, glancing briefly at Serenity. He was not certain if Valen had told the girl anything about Doma, but if he hadn't yet, Raphael was certainly not going to bring it up. I know that, Raph, but don't worry, I'll be all right, replied Valen cheerfully, and before either of them could call him back, Valen had hurried after Joey's rapidly disappearing figure. Amber looked around at them and said solemnly, Who wants to order a Valen-sized coffin? Amber! What? I'm only stating what you're all thinking. Why, Weller, hold up, will you? Joey turned and growled. What do you want? How about we start with an explanation and go from there? Asked Valen cheerfully, though the smile did not quite reach his eyes. What's bugging you, Weller? You acted all weird round Sky once Amber said that comment about, Oh no, don't tell me you're crushing on Sky. Joey looked affronted. No, that's not it at all. Well, I did. However, I realized way back when that Caden jerk showed up that Raphael already had dibs on her. So then, what's the problem? Joey did not say anything at first, scuffing his toe angrily in the dirt, and then he abruptly slumped and some of the fire left his eyes. He looked back up at Valen. Have you heard anything from Mai? Valen blinked. What? Mai? No, I haven't heard a peep from her, he replied, frowning. Is that what got you all angry? Now that Valen thought about it, however, he realized that Joey had been the only guy without a girlfriend, and as Amber was definitely not Joey's type, he likely felt left out. Did Amber remind you of Mai when she said that? Yeah, no. It wasn't like I was thinking Amber was Mai. I knew what you meant, mate. No worries. Don't break your brain trying to explain yourself. Anna replied with a grin. He sabbered and said, Have you tried calling her phone? Joey shot him a glare. Obviously. Her number is the only thing she gave me after Barra City ended, so I don't have any other way of contacting her. Valen's frown deepened. Well, I still have her number, and I think she changed phones when she joined up with Darts. I'll give it to you, and then you can see if she answers. I haven't called her since Doma ended, though, so I don't know if she changed her number or not. Joey brightened. You do that? Valen grinned again. Well, why not? Besides, that number doesn't come for free. I want 3 dates with your sister, without you tagging along. The other teenager's face darkened. 2. 3. 2. 3. And I have her back by 10. 9:45. 9:55. 9:50. Done, said Valen brightly, shaking his hand. I'll get Mike's number and then we part ways as unlikely friends. He paused, then looked around with marked confusion. Weller, where the heck are we? Joey looked around as well and said, Don't worry, I know where we are. We'll be back with the others in no time at all. I'm getting a distinct famous last words feeling from you right now, muttered Valen under his breath as he followed after Joey. Chapter 46. Gumpy and the Cue Ball. I told you so. I don't want to hear it right now. I freaking told you that we're lost. I've only been to your house once, Valen. So of course I'm not going to know where it is straight away. Besides, we aren't lost. We're just taking an alternate route. That's taking us this long to find our way back? Right, well, now pull the other one. Joey turned to scowl at the other teenager. Don't make me punch you, wise guy. Valen scoffed. Oh, please. You've punched me before, and it felt like you were tickling me. Funny, I was thinking the same about you, retorted the blonde, frowning as he studied his surroundings. His features brightened, and he pointed down a darkened alleyway. Okay, it's this way, he announced, starting down the road. Come on. Valen threw up his hands. That's it. We're gonna die. We aren't going to die, Joey snapped. He sighed and said, Look, I don't know where your house is, but Yugi does. I'm going to go there and get directions from him, okay? Should we be worried that Valen and my brother haven't returned yet? Asked Serenity nervously from her position on the sofa. Currently, the group occupied the basement, as Amber had cleared out the space of her former laboratory and had allowed them to turn the room into a recreation room. Serenity was sitting on the couch with Lola, who currently had her nose buried in a magazine. Alistair and Skylar were in the middle of a game of pool, while Raphael was sitting in an office chair near the table. He was being the referee, as Sky had asked him to be, but really he was taking this chance to catch up on reading. I wouldn't be, Sky said from her perch against the wall, applying chalk on her cue stick. She was currently watching the redhead focusing on aiming the cue ball in the right direction. Can you hurry up? It's been 5 minutes, she whined. Alistair ignored her, instead turning to Serenity. Keep in mind that it's Joey and Valen we're talking about, he replied. Aside from the fact that your brother's only been to this house once a couple years ago, Joey could have snapped and strangled Valen. I, for one, would have. He took his turn, the cue ball striking a colored one, but he grimaced when it knocked one of Sky's striped balls into the pocket instead. Sky shot him a triumphant grin and moved to the cue ball to take her turn. Serenity shot Alistair a worried glance. Joey wouldn't really do something like that. At least I hope not. He's been a bit bothered that I've been seeing Valen lately, but he wouldn't do that, Serenity, Raphael said reassuringly, finally looking up from the book. I don't know Joey very well, but he seems like the type to at least attempt to hold back. Skylar turned them out, leaning over the table to strike the cue ball. Her back was to the stairs, and her whole world was focused on the striped ball that was sitting innocently on the bottom. Her back was to the stairs, and her whole world was focused on the striped ball that was sitting innocently on the table. She grinned. Oh, poor little ball. It will never know what hit it. Ooh, Sky, who's winning? The sound of Vallon's voice next to her ear startled Skylar, and she let out an alarmed squeal, her cue stick smacking into the cue ball and causing it to go airborne. The white ball hurled through the air and matched the Skylar's alarm toward Raphael's face. Serenity had seen where the ball was going as well, and her voice was laced with alarm. Raphael, watch out! The ball's... Raphael closed the book over one of his fingers to bookmark his place before looking up, and seconds before the cue ball would have smacked him in the nose, he caught it and then casually rolled it back onto the table. Lola let out a low whistle, visibly impressed. I expected those kinds of reflexes from Alistair, not you. Raphael arched an eyebrow at her. Living with Vallon has its perks. Skylar, on the other hand, whirled on her heel to glower at the Australian. You idiot! You scare me! She snapped, and if it had not been for Alistair very hastily confiscating the cue stick, the girl might have hit Vallon with it. The redhead softly passed the cue stick to Raphael. I could have hit Raphael in the face with the cue ball. Vallon grinned. But you didn't now, did ya? Raphael, give me the cue stick. Skylar's voice was a low growl. Raphael rose to his feet. Why? He asked, making it a point to hold the stick out of Sky's reach. I'm going to beat Vallon with it. I'm not sure when I'll stop, she replied, trying and failing to look calm. Yeah, about that. What's rule 1 of the house? And don't tell me you don't know it. I had to remind Alistair about that particular rule more than once, he added when Sky opened her mouth to protest. No one is allowed to kill Vallon, no matter what he does. Raphael then turned his attention on Vallon and Joey. Now, you mind explaining why you were gone for so long and why you both look like you've come out of a fight? He asked. The look he was giving both of them demanded an explanation, and Vallon, having long since learned what that look meant, spoke first. This Gumby here got us lost, he replied, jerking a thumb to Joey. Not only that, but he got us lost in one of the worst parts of town. Do you know how many gangs we went through before we finally found Yuki's little shop? It was only then that Skylar noticed the bruises and dirt covering both of the boys. Serenity had already risen to her feet and was hovering anxiously between the two of them, uncertain as to who needed to be treated first. Alistair rolled his eyes and then caught Vallon by the elbow, steering him to the sofa. I'll go get the first aid kit. Serenity, can you take care of your brother? The next few minutes were spent taking care of the two teenagers. Joey was not as badly beaten up as Vallon, and the moment Serenity finished with him, he leaned back into the sofa. Great. Rich boy is never going to let me hear the end of this, he said gruffly, grimacing at the bandages on his arm. Skylar, who had started a new game of pool with Lola, blinked. Why would my cousin care? Why would my cousin care? You're not seeing him anytime soon. Joey stared. Are you kidding? Rich Boys tournament starts tomorrow. I got an invite. A grin began to stretch across Valen's features. No kidding! I'd forgotten about that, he said excitedly, wincing when a sudden movement jostled one of his injuries. I got an invite too. Looks like I get to have that rematch, Weller. Skylar's face darkened. Oh, joy, she muttered, heading toward the back closet. What's wrong with you? Asked Valen. He smiled faintly. I would have thought you'd be excited. Aren't you in this tourney? Sky stopped and spun around, glaring at Valen. My cousin hosted 2 tournaments. The first one involved a psycho Egyptian sending people fell into comas, while the second attracted the attention of the Siegfried weirdo. That's not even counting our incident. What do all these things have in common? Duel monsters. I'm not setting one foot anywhere near this thing. Your point? I think what she's saying is that there's a real chance of Murphy's Law coming into play, Raphael replied, setting his book down. I'm not participating in this tournament myself, but Alistair, Valen, you two be careful. Skylar stared at the taller blonde. Wait, Kaiba sent you an invitation. You're staying out of it? Raphael nodded. I don't duel in professional tournaments, he replied. I don't like putting myself in the spotlight. I spent enough time there after the shipwreck, remember? Aren't you the North American Duel Monsters champ? Asked Joey. I remember that Rebecca kid mentioning it. I could have been if I really wanted to be, he said, but I decided not to pursue it. Skylar's whole face brightened. Great, now I've got a sideline body, she announced. She shot Valen a triumphant look and said, So there, I'm not in this tournament and that's final. Valen and Lola exchanged glances, both sending the same silent message. We'll just see about that. Chapter 47. White Lightning. No! Oh, come on, Sky. You haven't even heard me out. No! Please? No, that's been my answer for the past hour, and it won't change. Raph? She's her own person, Valen. I can't control her. Please, pretty please, with tons of sugar and Raph-shaped sprinkles. There was a long pause. As tempting as that is, Valen, my answer is still going to be yes! The 3 of them jumped as Lola started bouncing around, her cell phone in hand. Serenity and Joey had gone home an hour ago, once Joey had been fruitfully seen to, and that left Lola, Sky, and the bikers in the house. Alistair raised an eyebrow and said, You seem remarkably happy. What is it? I just got a text from my family. I got a Kaiba Corp letter in my mailbox, and it's an invite to his tournament. I get to go with Alistair. Skylar did not miss the slightly worried frown the red-haired biker gained, but wisely said nothing. It was still far too soon to bring up the most recent bump in the road between them, and she suspected Alistair would be keeping a special eye on Lola. Lola bounced in front of Skylar and grabbed her hands, still bouncing up and down on her heels. You have to participate now that I'm in it. Please, Skylar scolded. You're just as bad as Valen. So is that a yes? No! When Sky got sight of the puppy dog look that Lola was currently giving her, Skylar growled and looked away. Fine, I'll do it. Skylar glanced at the taller blonde man and asked, That won't bother you, will it? It's your choice, Skylar. I'm not changing my mind on the matter, but I'll still be watching from the sidelines. Raphael replied with a shrug. He stretched and headed for the stairs. I suggest going to bed. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. The following morning found Lola, Valen, Alistair, and Sky inside a small locker room located in a stadium that had been rented by Kaiba Corp. They had to sign in at a different entrance, and as Raphael was not dueling, he had gone separately from them. So, how you reckon Kaiba's gonna show up? Asked Valen, stifling a yawn. That depends. In Battle City, Kaiba announced the tournament from a helicopter, followed by sending a blimp around that broadcasted the rules. In the Grand Prix, he came into the stadium via jetpack. Knowing him, he'll pick the most dramatic entrance he can. Sky replied flatly. We'll know for sure in about 5 minutes when the opening ceremony starts. Hey, Sky! The trio jumped at the child's voice, and Valen peered over the throng of people in the locker room. Spotting a familiar mop of black hair, the Australian lifted his hand and called out, Over here, mate! There was a pause, and then Mokuba slipped through the crowd. His face lit up in relief, and he said, Thank goodness I found you! I've got to ask a favor from you, and I know that you're probably going to say no. What happened, Mokuba? Asked Alistair, frowning at the distressed look on his face. The black-haired child shifted uncomfortably before glancing furtively around the room. He leaned in close, prompting the small group to lean forward as well. Well, he began, the tournament hit a small snag. One of the duelists just called in. They have mono, and they had to back out. So what's the problem? Lola replied. She pushed an errant part of her hair back over her shoulder. I mean, you have plenty of people to take their place, don't you? Yeah, but this tournament was invite only, Mokuba explained. My brother didn't want any repeats from his other tournaments and checked the backgrounds of everyone invited. The favor I've gonna ask you involves Raphael. I was wondering if he was in the stands today. Forget it. That's not gonna work, chum. He won't agree to it. Alistair's, Sky's, and Valen's replies were made almost simultaneously. At the surprised looks that Lola and Mokuba shot them, Sky huffed and said, He's already turned down the invitation, Mokuba. If he says no, he almost always means it. But Sky, we don't have anyone else, and the tournament matchups will be off. Kaiba Corporation has a reputation for running events smoothly, so if one person isn't here... Sky bit her lip. How soon do you need to know Raphael's answer? Before the opening ceremony. 10 minutes, in other words. We have spare duel decks on hand, added Mokuba helpfully. Please, guys, you've gotta help me out. What about Yugi and his friends? Asked Alistair, tipping his head toward where he could see Joey and Yugi. Surely someone they know could fill in the requirement better than Raphael. I already asked them. You guys are my last hope. Please, Sky, Mokuba begged. He can't even throw the first match if he doesn't want to compete. But we need him long enough to keep the matchups even. I sincerely doubt he'll throw a match deliberately, muttered Alistair under his breath. Sky shifted uncomfortably in place before reaching for her cell phone. I'll try. I won't guarantee Raphael deciding to join the tournament, though. You won't guarantee what? A gruff and familiar voice asked, startling the duelists. Skylar recovered first, a broad smile growing on her face. Hey, Raphael, she said, turning to face him. I thought you were already in the stands, Ben commented, visibly surprised. What brings you here? Sky forgot her phone, the older man replied, handing the shorter girl her phone. Now, what was it you can guarantee? Well, see, one of the duelists had to back out at the last second, and now we have an uneven lineup, Mokuba explained. Since the tournament is invite only, there's not a lot of people we can call to fill in the empty spot. Raphael frowned and then shook his head. I've got a pretty good idea of where this conversation is heading. I'm sorry, Mokuba, but I won't enter the tournament. Sky gently rested a hand on the burly man's arm, catching his attention. I know you aren't comfortable with being in the spotlight, but can't you? Not this time, Skylar, Raphael said gently. He bent down and gave her a quick kiss. Good luck. The blonde left the room after that, leaving behind a disappointed Mokuba and two shocked girls. Alistair and Valen both exchanged knowing looks, but said nothing. Chica, I think that's the first time I've ever seen Raphael say no to something you asked, Lola said at last. Alistair shrugged, not surprised. Sky might be his girlfriend, but when Raphael says no, he generally means no. Mokuba's shoulders slumped. I guess I'll go inform Zero about the opening in the roster. He's not going to be happy. No, you're not, retorted Sky, her face darkening. Raphael is joining in this tournament. Valen looked surprised. But Sky, Alistair already told you that Raph doesn't change his mind. I don't agree with Alistair on anything, but this is one thing I do think he's right about. I know, but you all forget that Mokuba and Zero aren't the only Kaibas here. I can't be just as stubborn as Zero when I have to be. I'll get Raphael to join. I didn't even want to duel in the first place, but if I'm doing it, he's doing it too, Sky retorted, heading for the exit. I'll be back in a few minutes. I didn't like that look in her eyes, Lola said, looking at the others. Alistair nodded in agreement, though he refrained from speaking. The duelists soon entered the arena, waiting for the pre-tournament ceremony to begin. 2 minutes before they had to enter the stadium, Sky returned with Raphael following behind her. Mokuba ushered them out the doors and to the platform in the middle of the stadium. Once there, Mokuba beamed at them before climbing off the stage and disappearing from view. Alistair looked up at the blonde with arched eyebrows. How did she get you to do this? He asked. Raphael did not look at him. I'd rather not say, he replied evenly. So any ideas of what he's doing? Asked Lola, catching the attention of the duelists around her. I already told you. I don't know. My cousin is probably going to do something everyone will be talking about for months afterward. When he hosts events, he makes them memorable. Sky replied. It's partially why people want to sign up for a Kaiba Corp event, since they have a greater chance of being remembered by participating in one of my cousin's tournaments. Abruptly, there was an ear-shattering roar from behind them all. Everyone on the platform jumped and whirled in place, trying to find the source of the roar. They were not the only ones, as Sky caught glimpses of the audience, trying to see what had just roared. It was Raphael who spotted it first, pointing to the opposite side of the stadium. Up there, he said, and Sky followed the direction of his finger to the rim of the open-air stadium they were in. Her breath caught when she saw what the man had. The blue eyes white dragon was perched on the rim of the stadium, its muscles bunched, and as if it was ready to take flight. It roared again, its eyes not on the crowd below, but on the other side of the stadium. On a hunch, Sky turned around and spotted the identical white dragon directly across from its sibling. There's another one, she cried, pointing. Alistair did not turn around. And 3 makes a crowd, he announced, looking to the far right. The only place in the stadium where there wasn't a dragon was the side directly in front of the platform. The 3 dragons roared simultaneously, then their scales gleaming in the sunlight. Zero's solid vision hologram system had been so perfected that Sky honestly believed she was looking at 3 real dragons, and she knew the others around her were thinking the same thing. Even Alistair, who still only just barely tolerated Kaiba, was impressed. It seemed, however, that the dragons had a purpose in being at their posts, and Sky gasped as all 3 dragons launched themselves into the air, circling high above the stadium. By now, both the bystanders and the duelists were looking high overhead as the dragons waved their way through the air above, executing several aerial stunts and flips through the air. The dragons performed for only a few minutes before starting to descend in a deep dive directly over the platform, and Sky could see the lightning building in their jaws. She realized with a jolt what was about to happen, as did several of the other duelists, and out of instinct ducked as the dragons pulled out of the dive just before they would have hit the platform. She heard Joey yelp as he fell over, and Lola shrieked as she ballowed into Alistair, as the dragons had very nearly hit the platform. All 3 dragons let loose a wild lightning attack in the area directly in front of the platform, temporarily blinding those closest to the attack zone. In the chaos, Sky barely noticed the dragons vanish, as she had to shield her eyes from the light. Her cousin could have warned her about this. She caught sight of a smaller metal platform rising through the fading light of the dragon's attacks and squinted. Lightning danced and crackled along the railings of this platform. Sky suspected it was an added effect from the white lightning attacks. Standing in the middle of this electrified platform was none other than Zero Kaiba, clad in a white suit. He looked perfectly at ease in the middle of the electricity crackling all around him. From behind him came one last triumphal roar, and the blue-eyed white dragon reappeared behind him, its large wings opening and flaring out around the smaller platform. Sky could not help but laugh at the dumbfounded expressions on her friends' faces. "I told you he liked slowly entrances," she said. And with that, we officially completed the story No Ordinary Life. Oh, excuse me a bit. I'm still trying. I think I'll have to. I think I'll have to. I think I'll have to wait. How you call that word? Hold on. Let me think of a better ending. And with that, we've officially completed the story called No Ordinary Life. If you guys enjoyed that and want me to read more stories about season 4, just subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell. See you guys next time. Goodbye.